Hello everyone, this is Soundwave, the communications officer of the Decepticons, and today we are roasting that vegan teacher, and I think she should be put in a nursing home because she looks like she's already rotting away.
Mark Robber, and I've reviewed his channel before, and unfortunately, although he talks about how he cares so much about animals, he still continues to handle them when he shouldn't be, take them out of their homes, and basically exploit them to make money. Unfortunately, we have to watch it. Let's do it. Drink soy milk, oat milk, rice.
I am incapable of drinking milk since I have no mouth, you fucking idiot. Well, I mean, that's directed at humans, but I'm incapable of drinking milk.
Starting very good. Why are you handling her? Animals don't want to be in your hands. Octopi are terrified when they're out of the water and being handled by humans. Mark Robber, don't be a Mark Robber, don't be a robber. Leave the octopi in the water. Mark Robber, don't be a robber. Leave the animals the fuck alone.
And this is a vault filled with all her favorite food.
Who killed them? How did they end up there? You should not be involved in any of this. Octopus should be in the ocean and allow them in their own ecosystem to figure things out. Don't kill animals for other animals. We interrupt this video to remind you that your dog can be vegan.
Away from you.
In order to get to this vault, she'll have to rely on her incredible intelligence and dexterity to make it all the way through this 9-part underwater obstacle course.
It's not an obstacle course, that's a prison.
And just like when I made my backyard obstacle course for squirrels, out of the gate I will admit in hindsight, I completely underestimated the capabilities of this remarkable creature.
It's not the same thing at all, Mark. When you were doing that obstacle course for the squirrels, they could go left, right, forward, backward, up, down. They were free to go to anyone's backyard. This individual is trapped in an aquarium, in an experiment. Animal testing is wrong.
To understand how we even ended up at this spot, we need to go back in time 6 months when I decided to get a pet octopus to see for myself if they were...
There you go. Look at this. Animals are not commodities. They're not.
I'm just going to say this. You should not be taking octopi out of the fucking ocean. They are the most smart animals compared to us. Keeping them as pets seems stupid, or a shockwave might say, illogical.
They're not hats. They're not scarves. They're not meant to be in stores and in plastic bags. Have you no empathy? How would you like it if somebody took you out of your home, put you in a store, and then transported you into a tiny plastic just to get views on YouTube? And what you're doing is you're teaching a whole generation of people that it's okay to exploit animals, and it's not. No. Deforestation and global warming. Which is exactly true. Comment section, and he's been helping out for several years. So thanks again, Mark, for everything you've done to help.
As smart as people say they are. And after bringing her home to Crunch Labs and putting her into a saltwater optimized and appropriately decorated tank.
It's not appropriately decorated. An appropriate decoration.
It seems like you were just about to start laughing there because of the reference to the show on Nickelodeon called SpongeBob. Also, I do think it is appropriate the decoration
would be for her to be in the wild, in the ocean, surrounded by plants, not plastic. This might look colorful for you and colorful for your YouTube viewers so that they are under the illusion that this individual is happy, but she is not. It reminds me of when you go to the zoo and they have this giant wall and it is painted with a jungle scene in an environment that was foreign to her. She's scared. She's not happy, no matter what you think.
Stood out is just how curious they are.
Look how terrified she is.
How can you
For example, when you put anything into the tank, including your arm, they immediately swim towards it and just want to interact. I will come
She is bored out of her mind after
Are
weeks
you
of being
sure
in
about
there.
that?
She is lonely. Do not mistake that for her liking you, even for 1 second, Mark.
for this in a minute, but beyond just being able to really securely latch on to things like my hand, she's so strong! Oh my god! Her suckers are also gathering information about me, like my smell, taste, and color. And so after just a few weeks, given how playful she is, it's hard not to form a quick bond. For example, she loved to go up and wave her tentacles in the jet stream, which I assume is the octopus equivalent of a dog sticking.
That's because she wants to be in the ocean with the current. Here's a little reminder. Don't be the vegan non-vegans want you to be. Be the
We
vegan
just
the
want you to
animals
stop
want you
crying
to
for receiver
Speak out.
for other
Was
people.
equivalent of a dog sticking its head out a car window. She could play catch with us, she had a propensity for selfies anytime she saw a camera, and whenever we'd put a toy submersible in her tank, she would go full 20,000 leagues under the sea.
You mean because she was terrified that you put a foreign object in her new quote-unquote home? It's wrong to use animals. It's wrong to eat them, wear them, experiment on them the way that you're doing here.
It is not wrong to eat them.
To love sashimi here at Crunch Labs, I did some investigating.
Oh, looks like we have a comment. Let's see what you wrote here. In the words of Kurt Cobain. Uh-oh. Let's remember, boys and girls, that Kurt Cobain was a drug addict. Somebody who was too afraid to face reality. A coward and an ignorant.
I already feel like killing myself from this stupidity.
Science. X. Let's.
These
Oh, you're planning to send her home. Really? What about all the animals that are dead in your intestines right now? Are you planning to send them home too, Mark?
Guess what? Nobody.
Yeah, I didn't think so.
500.
Hypocrisy much? Love animals.
impressive than that is when you slow it down and play it in reverse to see just how quickly and convincingly these changes occur. And it's not just camouflage as a form of protection, they can also mimic the shape of larger, more predatory animals like eels.
This part is good, Mark. You're showing how interesting octopi are. That's good. But why don't you
It looks like Squidward. If Squidward was a drug addict. See, you got eye, nose. Drug addict, Squidward.
follow up with some sentences that say, we should not be using them? Why don't you say that, Mark?
And as sashimi shows here, and you can see here, they've even come up with some pretty creative ways to scoot themselves around. And on top of that, there's stories from octopus researchers where they will recognize and shoot water at only one specific person anytime they walk by the tank. And they'll still recognize that person even if they switch clothes with other people. Or there's other stories where the octopus will repeatedly shoot water jets at the light switch to turn off the lights in the room. It's also not uncommon for them to escape their tanks at night to better map out the room they're being stored in, or to even raid the other tanks for food, only to return to their tank in the morning like nothing ever happened. And after a month or two of observation, once we had really come to understand each other, we had all the data we needed to enter phase 2. So after a lot of brainstorming, CAD, 3D printing, and laser cutting, we eventually landed here, starting at the conclusion of the 9-part obstacle course with the Golden Vault. If she can figure out how to unscrew the vault door, well then she's earned the 3 pounds of her favorite food, shrimp, contained therein. And the reason we know it's her favorite food is because over the course of a week, we prepared an underwater seafood buffet with 4 different food options. And all 4 times we repeated the experiment, the aroma from the shrimp was consistently the most irresistible. But
What's the point to all this, Mark? Is it really just to make money? Can you not find another way? without taking these innocent creatures and using them as objects?
In
In order to earn that succulent reward, she's got her work cut out for her, starting back at the beginning with challenge number 1, the over-under. If she finds a way to get under this barrier through these rocks, well then she's gotta find a way to get over this barrier through these floating balls. And if she manages that, then it's through the green circular portal where she'll find herself face to face with this 4-panel revolving door. And if she works out how revolving doors work and makes it through the next green portal, well then Sashimi will basically be met by a wall.
And what happens when she is through different phases here and feeling completely trapped? You think this is joyful. It's not. How can you think that it is okay to not feed an animal unless they jump through hoops for you? Do you also think it's okay to take lions out of the wild and to force them in circuses and elephants? I presume so, given that this is your idea of ethics.
And at this point, it's game over, unless she correctly deduces that by pushing this block out, she could pass through the corridor and continue her journey upwards to the ball drop. And this is where things level up a notch, because dexterity becomes much more critical.
Nobody gives 5 fucks on fast forwarding.
Out is blocked by this red gate. That is unless she figures out how to hit the emergency exit button, which will push this glass counterweight ball down off the edge, thereby pulling the gate up and allowing entry into perhaps my favorite obstacle, the fish out of water.
Run, run, run from humans.
Nobody gives a fuck about your stupid songs.
The only way for Sashimi to continue her progress would be to flex her ability to comfortably live on land for up to an hour by crawling out of the water, up, over, and back down on the other side.
Comfortably. It's incredible what you're doing. It's absolutely horrific what you're doing.
I don't understand people. I don't understand the entitlement of people.
How dare you do this to her? And to teach 27 million.
How dare you exist when nobody fucking asked you to? I'm fast forwarding it.
Now this is a bit of a throwback to the tourist trap on the squirrel maze, where a strategically placed snack led to a timely photo op.
Except that the squirrel is free. Don't you get it? The squirrel is not in a cage. The squirrel does not have to go underwater for an hour. You're taking the octopus out of the water to perform some sort of a trick for you, so you can make money.
The entitlement of people.
In this case, I call it the Medusa, because the hope is that as she eats the shrimp with her beak on the underside of where her legs all come together, it will look like Fat Gus has 8 braids of beautiful flowing hair. Fat Gus has 8 braids of beautiful flowing hair.
Animals are not toys.
Strong with the penultimate challenge, which is sort of a double obstacle, because there are 6 holes in the top ranging from small to really small. And if she takes the easy route by squeezing through the least small hole, well then she has a lot more maze to deal with, as opposed to the smallest hole that puts her right at the finish. Either way, at this point she's made it here, and if she solves the final puzzle by unscrewing the vault door, she's not only earned the all-you-can-eat seafood buffet, but she's proven she's quick enough on her tentacles to handle being returned back to her ocean home to the very tide pools she was raised in. So with everything in place.
So that's going to make you look like some sort of a hero. Is that the idea? You're going to return her home? What about all...
I fucking hate you. And yet again, you should be put in a nursing home already.
All that was left to do was open this ball valve, and as the smell of fresh shrimp made its way to her tank, she made her way down the tube like an 8-legged gladiator to her saltwater coliseum.
Reminder for Mark. It is the position of the Academy of Nutrition because they use fewer natural resources. Thank you for listening to this
understand what she was supposed to do next. But since you can only ignore the ambrosial smell of raw fresh shrimp for so long, she eventually got curious and started exploring. And one of the first things we observed is that anytime she's in a new environment, she kind of maps things out by walking around gathering data with her arms as opposed to just swimming around freely through the middle. And soon enough, she had things figured out. Now admittedly, this first challenge was a bit of a softball, because having observed Sashimi in her home tank, I knew she was good at digging and burrowing herself in the sand, using the water propulsion from her siphon tube to clear the rocks away. The floating balls were even less of a challenge for her, and after making it through, you really get a sense of how much she sends out her arms as scouts to gather critical information. Especially in the wild, they can read.
They're so amazing, aren't they? If you haven't yet seen my
That's at least one
octopus,
thing we can agree on them. They are amazing. It's the... And you make me want to kill myself.
out of the wild.
Be a much harder test. Wow. Okay, I see how this is gonna be. This was my first real indicator that we were headed for a real battle of wits. It was a similar feeling to when the squirrels eventually outsmarted my rope bridge of instability by just jumping over it altogether. And I really should have seen this coming, because as you can see in this video of an octopus escaping from a ship, as long as an opening is bigger than their beak, which is the only actual hard part of their body, then they can eventually squeeze through it. In fact, if we roll that back, you can see Sashimi's beak, or mouth, right here. And while this part looks like a big nose, that's actually their main body where all their vital organs reside, like their brain, stomach, gills, kidneys, ink sac, siphon, and their 3 hearts. 2 other cool facts about octopi is their blood is blue because it's copper-based, since that's more efficient in cold, low oxygen environments. And if they lose an arm, they can regrow it completely and it will look indistinguishable from the original.
Which you can see if you go and watch that documentary called My Octopus Teacher.
Next up was the block push. Once again, she got to this point and was sort of stumped without an obvious path forward. But this is where their natural curiosity pays off. Because she's not just feeling surfaces with her arms, but also constantly pulling and pushing to see what she can interact with. And so sort of by default, she figured out this red part of the wall doesn't push back as hard, which cleared the way up to the ball drop.
Maybe Mark doesn't know this, but he should be protesting the fact that it was recently announced that in Spain there are plans to have an octopus farm, the first one ever, which, as you can see, would obviously be torture for these innocent creatures who are as smart or even smarter than cats. Mark Robber, you should be better than Nikocado Avocado.
Your beak is 5,000 fucks about your stupid songs.
Our dogs can be vegan. You're your dog. You can Google vegan.
When is this stupid song going to end?
Basically maintaining eye contact with me as a flex, she reaches up with one arm and then twists the bar, which dislodges the ball, allowing her to clear them out and move on. And this feels like the perfect moment to tell you that my absolute favorite fact about the octopus is that they are truly the closest thing we have to intelligent alien life on this planet.
If aliens came to Earth and really wanted to eat you, would you say, no problem, and let them take a bite out of your mom and dad?
That song is offensive to pretty much all of your viewers, as they are most likely orphans.
So leave them alone. Okay? Let them be.
This is a very simplified version of a tree of life. These kind of diagrams show you how all life is related and what evolved from what. How do we know this? Well, by being true scientific detectives and looking for clues. For example, a few hundred years ago, scientists noticed that us humans have 7 vertebrae in our necks, but so do giraffes. But wait a sec, so do whales, mice, elephants, lions, horses, and bats. So that's a clue they all share a common ancestor and belong to this group called mammals. And it's not just neck bones. Watch what happens if you compare the arm bone configurations of a human to a bat, to a chicken, to a turtle, to a dolphin.
Reminder, don't eat dolphins, don't eat bats.
There's no motherfucker out there who actually eats dolphins. Besides from people in Japan, but I think Japan should just stop killing sea creatures altogether.
and sort of check our answers in the back of the book. Anyways, using these techniques, if you want to see where our lineage broke off from that of octopi in the Tree of Life, you have to go back over 500 million years ago to a simple flatworm. But if you look closely, all of what we think of as the smart animals are over here on this side of the Tree of Life, including dolphins, dogs, pigs, horses, humans.
Reminder, don't eat anyone. They're all family.
And why should I not eat a Big Mac from McDonald's or some popcorn chicken from KFC? Is it just because you say everyone should be vegan?
Intelligence completely independently from everything over here, like an alien from another planet, and that's why they're built just so differently from us. For example, they have twice as many neurons as a cat, but unlike all the animals over here where all the neurons are focused in the brain, in octopi only 1/3 of their neurons are in the brain, and the rest are in their arms, which means they not only smell and taste, but they can even think and act independently with their arms. That means that even if their arm is cut off, the arm can still camouflage itself to the surroundings.
And also their arms still move when they are dead. And motherfuckers in Japan actually think it's a good idea to eat octopus. They're still alive. And you could possibly die. It is the most stupid ass shit ever.
By sensing light. It would be like closing your eyes, walking into a room, touching a wall, and having your hand match the color. Having 8 independent mini brains along with a larger central brain is as incomprehensible as alien intelligence to us.
Unfortunately, he's going back to the experiment, but that last part was very educational. I'll admit that. And I think if you just taught kids and adults about different animals, that would be great. But why involve them in these experiments, Mark? You don't have to. It's not okay. Is that the only way that you can make money doing this? How much money do you actually need? Why don't you just leave out the experiment part, where you are making the animal afraid, taking them away from their families, and using them as an object by dangling food in front of them for them to perform for you? How would you like it if somebody deprived you of food and safety?
And how about you get put in that nursing home already? You're making this video way too fucking long.
Almost like once she feels the red door, she figures out my trick and then immediately pushes the button to drop the ball and open the gate to move on to my favorite obstacle, the fish out of water. Now I was relieved to see that I had thrown her another curveball, because after quite a bit of exploratory arm expeditions, she realizes the only way forward is up and out. And so after psyching herself up, she just goes for it, sliding up, over,
Okay, so there appears to be a bit of water up there.
and eventually down. And this demonstrates another octopus superpower, because they can survive out of water for up to an hour, and as you can see here,
There's an octopus eating a crab!
it's one of the reasons they're such successful hunters in and around tide pools. And now that we're coming down the final stretch, I figured she deserved a bit of a snack break.
Snack time! I'm always in the...
If it's snack time, I do not give a fuck. I will eat when I finished recording.
How on earth do you think that it's okay for you to do this? To teach kids that animals are entertainment for us?
And what makes you think he's teaching them that animals are entertainment? He's pretty much just teaching people about what these animals can do.
Mark Robber, do I have to play the song again? Did you not hear my message the first time? Mark Robber, don't...
I'm skipping over this segment.
I'm going to fast forward through this.
tiny little sacs called chromatophores, filled with either black, red, or yellow pigment, and then they use their muscles to stretch those sacs like a balloon to achieve any combination of those three colors. Then they've got a layer below that called iridophores that bounce back specific wavelengths of light, giving those iridescent blues like peacocks or beetles. Then there's even one more layer that reflects back ambient light called lucifores. On top of all that, they can also use a muscular structure called papillae to change the texture of their skin, creating ridges and bumps. And because they can change any of those in as little as 200 milliseconds, which is literally less than the blink of an eye, it makes them the true masters of disguise in the animal kingdom.
They are clearly sentient. They are clearly smart. They clearly do not belong on anyone's plate.
I agree with you there, because motherfuckers in Japan are eating them. And guess what? Their tentacles are still fucking moving. And they think it's a good idea to eat them. They could fucking die.
Every possible wrong turn along the way, but then eventually she's over it and just cuts right to the end.
Yeah, do you think she's having fun? Really? How can you tell that she's playing?
I took the high road and let it slide.
Oh yeah, you took the high road. Sure you did. Good job, Mark.
Which brought her to the Golden Vault. After a month or so of training on all the obstacles, she had finally done it. And with the tide on her side, she went straight for the door, ripped it off the foundation, and then immediately basked in the sweet, delicious taste of a hard-earned victory in the largest stockpile of shrimp she'd ever seen. And after letting her gorge for a bit, it was time for me to uphold my end of the deal and give her the Finding Nemo happy ending she deserved by driving her 8 hours down the coast back to the exact beach where she was raised. Having figured out and remembered the solutions to—
Oh, listen to the beautiful music. Wow, Mark, so touching. So touching that you bought this octopus, used her to make money, and then you're doing the wonderful, wonderful thing of bringing her back to the ocean.
Do you not give a fuck that he's letting the octopus go? Do you just think he's letting it go for views?
I haven't mentioned, and that's that their entire lifespan is only about 1.5 years. And as a final act,
1.5 years. Wow, I did not know that. But it seems a little bit too short.
after laying her eggs, a female will continually watch over and protect them to the point that she stops eating and dies. Which meant in the exact same coves and tide pools that her mother did for her, soon sashimi would be extending that ever-changing tree of life by one more generation. Only perhaps this time creating a new branch of super intelligent puzzle-solving offspring.
At this point, I'm hoping in the video that you are going to end it on a positive note by saying to your audience,
I think this video is pretty much done. So, this is Soundwave, out.